Good evening, YouTube. My name's Rob Pollard. I'm just going to cover some of the enhancements I've been working on with regard to the orders symbology. What I'll do, I'll take you through both the old and the new systems so we can compare and contrast. The first thing I want to cover is the standard movement arrow, which is this, use standard movement. Now this is the old system we're showing here. Now I had two issues with the old arrow. The first one is that when this unit moves forward, it doesn't stop at the tip, it actually stops at its center point, and that can make it very difficult for a player to accurately order the unit to go to a specific place, because as that's the center point, you don't really know how much the unit's going to be sticking up directly ahead of the arrow. Other issues with this arrow, as you'll see when we kick it off, the whole thing kind of vibrates up and down whilst the unit's moving due to some mathematical issues, and I really didn't like that at all. And finally, what you also see when the unit gets to out here and you have just the arrowhead left, it ends up pushing the arrowhead forward. So again, it makes it very difficult from a player's standpoint to work out exactly where the unit's going to end up. So what we'll do, I'm going to move this mouse cursor so it's directly over the tip so we can see where we think the unit's going to move, and then we'll hit play and see what happens. So straight away you can see the arrow kind of vibrating up and down. I really didn't like that. It's looks quite unprofessional, and that's something I wanted to address in the new system. But more interesting is to see where the unit actually ends up. Your expectation would be the leading edge. And notice it's pushing the arrowhead up. So again, that makes it very difficult to determine where the unit's actually going to end. If I get the next turn going, as you see, if you keep your eye on the mouse cursor, you can see that the unit actually moves to its center point. And as I said earlier, that can make it very difficult for a player to accurately move a unit. For instance, you might want to move a unit so it's right on the edge of a hill contour, but with this order system, it's very difficult to do. However, that's being rectified in the new system, which I'm going to show you now. Now this is the new system. Outwardly it looks no different to the old system. The arrow looks absolutely the same, but the two or three key differences you're going to see is once we start moving, the arrow is going to be rock solid. You're not going to see it vibrating up and down, which I think makes it look a lot more professional. But also you'll see that the leading edge of the unit will actually stop right on the arrow tip, which is what you'd expect, and that helps with accurate orders placement. That's something the old system didn't do. And we'll also see the arrowhead stay where it is. You won't see it float forwards. So what we'll do, in fact we don't even need to leave the cursor on the end because the arrowhead's not going to move this time. We'll hit play and you should be able to spot the differences. Here we go. See, look at that arrow's now rock solid, no vibrating movement. I think it just looks a lot better than it did. So let's see what happens when the unit gets the actual arrowhead. There you go. The arrowhead remains perfectly stationary, so at all times you know exactly where the unit's going to stop, whereas the old system, because the arrowhead was being pushed forward, you never quite knew. As I said earlier, that leads to much simpler placement of units. And there you go. So hopefully you can see the advantages of the new system there. But the changes I made didn't end there either. We'll take a look at the rotational orders next, and I'll show you those in the old system now. Right, we're back in the old system now, and I'm going to demonstrate how the old system used to handle rotations. So what we'll do, we'll get this average unit here to do a fast wheel. That kind of looks okay there. Now, one thing I didn't like between the wheeling system and the old linear system is that the arrows look different, the heads were different, and even these spacings were different. And I think that takes away from some of the harmony of the graphics. So one thing you'll see when I show the new and improved system is that the curved arrows actually look much more like their straight-lined companions. Get this unit here to do a slow wheel. Right, so apart from, I guess, the arrowhead design, what else have I done? Well, one of the downsides of the old system is, just like with the straight line movements, these arrowheads would vibrate up and down, and that's something I wanted to eliminate. And also, dependent on whether you're going clockwise, anti-clockwise, you've got slightly different behaviours on the arrowheads. So let's run this and I can show you. So there's not a lot of vibration yet, but you'll find as the unit gets nearer to the arrow, it starts to move. You can just start to see it moving now. It just doesn't look steady. And there you see the unit goes right over the top of the arrowhead. And here you see it wobbling again. See that wobbliness of the arrowhead? And I wanted to get rid of that. Let's see what it does when it gets to the end. Unlike the other direction, it's actually pushing the arrowhead forward as opposed to going over it. So with the old system, you actually got two different behaviours depending on which way you were rotating. Of course you ended up with that weird vibration movement. So in the new system, I got rid of the vibrating movement. I have consistent behaviour now at the arrowhead ends, and the arrows look like their straight-lined counterparts, and I'll show you that now. Here we are back in the new system, and now we're going to issue the same wheeling orders. Let's make this one do a fast wheel. Now note, one of the things you can see straight away is the arrow design now matches the straight line arrow design, and that adds a certain harmony to the overall display, so it all looks like it's part as one. We'll do the same for this one. We'll give it a slow wheel. So there you go. So that's the first advantage. The second advantage we're going to see is, unlike the old system, we're not going to see the arrowheads vibrate at all. They're going to be perfectly steady. And also, unlike the old system, these arrowheads are going to work the same way regardless whether going clockwise or anti-clockwise. What you actually find is units go over it, it will shrink until the units get to the end. So again, it makes placement of the unit a lot simpler to plan for. So let's hit play. Let's see it in action. So as you see, the arrowheads are absolutely rock solid, no vibrating movement there whatsoever. If we look at the anti-clockwise movement, see, nice, consistent, looks very professional when it gets there, and you'll see exactly the same behaviour on this side when this unit reaches its arrowhead as well. And again, look, no vibration whatsoever, perfectly solid arrow all the way to the end. Again, you see it the arrowhead's shrinking down, and the point never moves. So again, it makes for very accurate placement. And I think these new arrows, because they don't vibrate, they're fixed, I think that does lend a certain air of quality, I guess, to the display presentation. So that's it in terms of the enhancements. They're only small because I'm actually learning to code ASP MVC at the moment until I get fully back into Ancient Armies. But before I go, I'd just like to show you what this looks like naked in triangle mode, so you can get an appreciation, I guess, for some of the mathematics that I have to deal with. Here we are back in Ancient Armies again, but you've probably never seen it look like this. As some of you might know, or might not know, my game uses my own custom graphics engine. Underlying that is DirectX, and DirectX can only draw triangles, so everything that you see on the display is a triangle. Even the things that look curvy, they just consist of lots of triangles. So if you look at like the tracks, you can see lots of triangles there. It's the same with the units, even down to the actual writing. If we zoom right in on the writing, you can see that consists of lots of triangles too. Now, in terms of the movement orders, that obviously means that they actually are a little bit more complex than they look on the surface. So if I issue a straight line order to this one, see, I have to calculate the 4 triangles that make up that. So that's quite a simple one. If I do a charge order, it gets a little bit more complex because you've got many more triangles involved there. So you can see there, and all of this has to be calculated on the fly in real time. And of course things get even more complicated when we start wheeling the units. Let's zoom in a bit there. Let's look at the triangles there, and again all that has to be calculated. And you don't get to see this when the game's running normally, so all you see is the lovely shapes. You don't actually know that I'm having to do all these all these calculations basically to make it happen. And finally, let's show a fast wheel. And again, look at that. So hopefully that does show you, I guess, some of the underlying complexities of the system. So even this, the trivial work that I've done this week to update these movement arrows, it did involve a fair amount of mathematical calculation. And of course I'll quickly show you this moving as well, so you can see what it looks like. There we go. Look at that, all that's happening in real time. I actually find it therapeutic watching the game running in triangle mode. You can actually see all the calculations happening in real time. It's not all hidden behind the facade of the map. So there, hopefully that will give you all a little bit of an insight as to, I guess, some of the calculations that I have to deal with in order to present what on the outside looks like a simplistic map with simplistic units, but under the hood it's actually relatively complex. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.